got some
I love
juicy
it.
stuff for you that you love even more about documentation.
Yeah.
Your congregation is like the best documentation of anyone I've ever seen, down to having like, these are the run sheets, these are the questions that we asked in the breakout groups. I'm like,
Super cool. Nice. Helps to have motivation from teachers at university kicking my ass from time to time. Yeah. I just wanted to briefly mention like this posture that you just described, Rich, of letting this be like just something fun and exciting to share. Like that really feels good to me. And I would also like to bring that to this meeting. It doesn't need to be obligatory. It doesn't need to feel like work. It's us sharing our excitement with you. So I Nati, for your context, in case you don't have it yet, I invited Rich for this call because of kind of two main things. One being just to share what's been going on and explore our process since we last spoke, which was before we even sent any email out to the congregation, pretty much, and up until now. And the second thing is that there's on May 30th, a moment where I will have to give a public showcase or event for about an hour or so about this process, and just wanted to explore ideas around that with you guys as well. So yeah, to start off, like I would love to dive into just, I guess, sharing with you how things have been going. I'd also already from the start be open to hearing from you if you like. I'm not sure how much context you already have based on the things I've put out.
I have a little bit of context, yeah, but not much. So I might ask you questions
along the way. Okay, yeah, sounds good. I mean, shall we just go through the whole story, or are there any lenses you'd like to focus on specifically?
I love to hear, like, if you're crewing, like if you're already organizing crews, like how is that going? How many crews do you have going? What are some processes that you might be using? And what is the process that you're using to organize those crews?
Yeah, and related to that is my question at the moment about how much of that energy for hosting those crews is coming from you too, being really connected and focused and like having some sense of inspiration versus it kind of manifesting in the group and happening in a more decentralized peer-to-peer way. Okay. But also just whatever updates you've got to share are interesting as well.
I mean, so basically we decided that we were going to have our first gathering in mid-July. That was the initial plan, mid-July. And before this gathering, we would have some introductory meetings in which we would invite people just to get them an idea of what Microsolidarity was. And then after these meetings, people could decide whether they wanted to take the responsibility and enroll, get into the project, and then come to the gathering, and the gathering would be the place where we grew. So we met with the first group of around 10 people in March, and this was presential. We were in person still. And then these people invited another round of people, and we met again in April, this time already in Zoom because of Corona. And in April, I think in the Zoom call, we were about 16 people. And we are going to have another Zoom call for introducing again to people just in boarding. So what we do is for 1 hour, we just talk about Microsolidarity as a structure. And then for another hour, we go a little bit like more into what in Microsolidarity really attracts you, and what kind of projects do you have, what makes you alive that you would like to work on. And so on Sunday, we're going to meet again for the third time. And this will be more or less the final group that we're going to bring to the gathering. We are a little bit in a moment in which I think that on one side, because this is also a semi-close group of friends, people are crewing naturally. On the other side, the official moment for crewing would be in the gathering. And at the moment, we are kind of not knowing too well how to relate to it, because we would like it to be an in-person moment, but we are not sure on whether this is going to be possible or not. On one side, we are more or less hoping that because we plan on doing it in the end of June, beginning of July, that maybe a gathering with 20 to 25 people won't be so much of a big thing.
Yeah. And are they all in Maastricht?
No, we started with everyone being in Maastricht, 9 of us, and in the second meeting when we did it over Zoom, we then had 2, 3 people from outside of Maastricht out of the 14. So now we've kind of naturally gone into a direction where the majority is based physically in Maastricht, but we're also being open to friends coming from other places in Europe and the UK. I don't really have a desire, like I also have friends in the States who I could think of to invite, but for some reason I feel like still having some sort of closer geolocation is nice. So keeping it somewhat to Europe is how my instinct is going.
This is one of the weird things about this moment is suddenly everyone's connecting online and there's heaps of opportunity. Like I have intentionally been cutting off conversations from the States and just saying, no, for now I'm focused in Europe. But then the last month or two, it's like, I'm having conversations all over the world because why not? Everyone's online, like, it's fun. Yeah. But when it comes to actually, you want to be spending time together face to face. I don't want to be creating these kind of relationships where then people are expected to fly intercontinentally to hang out for 3 days thing. Exactly. That really feels like a relic from the past. I don't want to be doing that anymore. So it makes sense to me to draw that, at least the regional boundary. And maybe it's Europe, or maybe it's even, a little bit of the Middle East and North Africa as well, or whatever, but some sense of like people have. If
you can move by land, then it's much easier. Yeah. Or if you want to take a sailboat, why not? But it might take you a bit longer.
Yeah, exactly. Did you want to continue?
I mean, even not only in Europe, but in Maastricht specifically, like at some point we also thought about expanding our network or inviting people that would, for example, be located. I have someone that I would like to invite from Norway and a few people from Portugal. But then I was also like, at this very moment, we are going to do this dry run from June until November, December. This is what the dates that we established. And I felt like maybe let's try with this small circle that it's already closed, that it's already here. Let's establish our culture. And also, and going a little bit into your second point, it's a little bit also, Josh and I are getting to this moment in which we are doing things, but in which we would like to really create a more participatory culture. And I think that we have been kind of doing this from the start, but now that we need to be more explicit, and I think that this is also more easily done when people are more in a more central place where people can relate to each other more easily. Because if I have one person in Portugal, maybe she feels or he feels more distant to the like 15, 16 people here. So really creating this culture, building this culture from the start, and then inviting and like having 15 people who are kind of equally owning the project, let's say.
Yeah, I think this has been, for me, one of the kind of biggest issues in this process is just like, making things explicit enough and getting people to take initiative, and like going into these kind of participatory self-organizing culture is something that I'm also kind of studying on the side. I'm actually right now taking this course with the organizing like mycelium course with Samantha Slade and Phoebe Tickle. So I'm also trying to just learn a bit more like how to bring in practices of going horizontal, of participation, to make things more, to get people to take more responsibility, like initiate more, give their ideas, make it more valuable for themselves rather than me, and be always kind of deciding what's up.
Do you have a like from those sources, or just from your own intuition, do you have a kind of mental model or a framework or some kind of, how do you think about that transition from, you've obviously initiated this energy and you want it to be, you've got this destination where it's co-created and participatory. Do you have a sense of like, how do you get from A to B?
Roughly, but like, yeah, I'm definitely, I don't know, I think like I definitely am not following an instruction manual right now. Kind of just am starting like really testing things. Like we send an email and no one responds by the date we asked them to. No one responds a week later. So the next email we start putting action points, and the next email we start putting things at the top of the email, and the next email we encourage people that actually like we really all need to kind of participate and give some like heartfelt paragraph about why we all need to participate, or mention something in an in-person meeting or on Zoom. Yeah, like right now it's at the very novice phase, I think, of kind of just like trying things out that feel like they might work and then seeing what happens.
And I also think like for me it's also like, I think it also requires a moment from me and Josh to stop and to see what is it that needs to be decentralized, what is it that we want to make participatory, because for me at the moment it's not so clear. So I think that would be the first step to like, okay, what is it that we want to decentralize? Where is it that we want people to jump on board and to respond to? Because at the moment it feels like it's a little bit more, it's not so much on how much we're doing or what we're bringing to the group, but it's more like we ask to respond to emails and they don't respond. And so these are the kind of things that, at least to me, are being a little bit hard to deal with.
Especially when not being able to run into people on the street or make that, kind of spontaneous reminder.
Question, is it at the moment just the two of you as a core team, or do you have other people?
Yeah, I would say so.
I would say that like there's the two of us in the emails, logistics, doing the administration work. And I would say that there's three more people, Sophie, Hai, and Max, who are also kind of, we go for them to have ideas, to brainstorm, and they respond. They also contact people. They are kind of like supporters, which also feels quite good. Like I personally really feel like at least these three people, like I really trust and rely on.
You can expect this kind of power law distribution of engagement.
Yeah, I was hoping that you had talked about it already.
I'm not sure if I have, but there's two of you in the middle that are doing a lot, and then there's another 3 or 4 people that are doing a bit, and then there's going to be a lot of people that are
barely engaging.
Yeah.
That's normal.
That's normal.
Yeah.
And I don't think I've got like a really clear mental model. That's why I was asking, in case you picked it up from Samantha and those other people. Definitely there's a thing which is like giving birth and raising a kid, like when a baby is first born, it's completely helpless, and then at some point it becomes an independent, autonomous adult, and there's this transition period that takes some number of years, and there's this awkward process of like, oh, should I step in or should I let go? And it seems like at the start, for some reason, you two and maybe a couple of people next to you are these peculiar people that have a vision, and they can see like, yeah, it's worth doing this logistical part. It's worth doing this. Let's make some agreements and have these meetings and things, because I want to get to there, and that place is really motivating. But most people don't really see that. They don't really feel it, or they don't believe that it's possible, or it's just not their priority or whatever. And you it's on you to be the parents, and just like raise that baby until it starts getting its own like.
Yeah, that's exactly what it feels like.
I mean, from what I know, the best way to do that is to start passing on responsibilities.
Yeah.
So if you even say, hey, we need to do this particular task, and we need some people to step up to do it. So you can call out to whomever feels called to, you know, be doing those actions, to form some sort of working group. And you could be supporting that working group, but not directly involved. So in that sense, like the people that are going to be doing the work, they're the ones that will take on this feeling of ownership of what's happening.
Yes. Yeah.
Instead of you having to tell them what to do, or you having to hold their hand to do everything. You could be there like supporting them, like, you know, like reach out if you have questions, but kind of be like, this belongs to all of us.
Yeah.
Why don't you hold the baby for a while?
Yeah.
So it's kind of like that. You pass it around, and it's like, oh yeah, got it.
But even that first gesture of handing over, I think it comes after some initiation, the activation, and the gathering makes sense. You know, that people get excited after spending a couple of days together, and they're actually like, at that point is a good time to ask them, like, can you take some responsibility now? And before then, it's like,
although they already had a few meetings, right? Like in a way, you do have the sense that you already have some sort of group going on.
Yeah, I mean, we had these meetings, just to build some undercurrent of culture and structure and commitment so we only had planned to have 2 meetings and then the in-person gathering.
Yeah.
So April, May, June gather. But now we're not able to, so we're kind of just a little bit loosening up and saying, okay, let's just keep having these welcoming sessions. And we're actually gonna, after this Sunday, stop the welcoming sessions and kind of cap our group at whatever number it is, maybe 15 or so, and then just do 2 kind of peer coaching sessions through the month of May, and then see what else happens. But asking people not to invite new people until, I guess, until probably November, actually, until after we're able to gather for the first time in person.
Yeah, cool.
Makes sense.
Yeah. I had something I wanted to say about the participation, but I lost it. Maybe it comes back.
I'll just add another piece on that then, that something I've noticed in another congregation that I'm in. The founder, it's very obvious that there's like one person in the middle, and they're very committed to participation and shared ownership and so on. And he and I have this kind of relationship of, I've kind of got permission to give him feedback about, hey, look, I think this is one of these times where you can pass the baby over, and you're, you know, like so passionate and committed and conscientious, and you've got the standard of like quality of how you'd like it to be. But it's not going to look like that when someone else does it. You're going to have to, like, like you're saying about giving people responsibilities. It's like, this is a good shaped job that someone else can just do that, you know, host this meeting. I mean, that's one of the reasons we emphasize crews so much. Is pretty easy to host a crew, you know, at least to host one of the meetings of one of the crews. Anyone can kind of pick that role up. And it's just like the tiniest first step in the direction of taking responsibility and holding space for others and caring and that sort of thing. And so it could be helpful to, maybe it's the 2 of you doing that for each other, or other people in the community as well doing that for you, but to give you feedback and go like, hey, here's a moment where you can let go a little bit, and expect that to be a somewhat clumsy process.
I remember what I was going to say, kind of, relating to that, the passing over of the baby, and just what I do feel intuitively is perhaps that just making it a bit more explicit, that we would like this culture, would be helpful, because we've kind of, in every meeting, we've been focusing fully on kind of sharing microsolidarity and getting to know each other and sharing our dreams and our desires and our boundaries, and not really going into, okay, how do we actually want to be keeping this fire alive together? It's a bit assumed and expected that B and I are just pulling the horses for now. So we haven't had that conversation yet. And I also think it's okay, because it's only been 2 moments of filling people in, but that feels like if I were to have some kind of, like you asked, intuitive mental model, it would be maybe creating moments to explicitly share like participatory practices, perhaps one that I'm picking up in this Going Horizontal workshop, for example. Something like this.
I just remembered Joshua Weil, who's the founder of Inspiral. I think it was the first or the second gathering that I went to from Inspiral, which, you know, it had already been around for a year or two before I arrived. And he, when everyone was present, you know, made this big explicit gesture of, he explained this metaphor of like trying to start a fire, and you need to kind of blow on the flames to get it going. And if you blow too hard, it goes out. But if you don't blow enough, it goes out. You know, there's this kind of balancing act of getting that thing going. And he was saying, I've been blowing a lot these last few years, and I'm going to stop soon. And I want the flame to keep going, and I don't want it to be mine. I want it to be ours. And gave us 6 months notice and said, you know, expect over the next 6 months that I'm not going to be putting in so much energy, and it needs to come from and that, yeah, I'm super impressed by that as a model of leadership, that he could give us that kind of signaling and say, over this long period of time, I'm going to slowly step down my engagement, and you're going to have to step in and fill up the gaps, or else it's not going to work anymore. And then at the next gathering, then he left after that and left the country, and like didn't do anything. Like he was completely unavailable for, I think it was like 6 months. Went to Cambodia. It was just like, I'm out. And that meant all of the technical stuff of like, yeah, whose Zoom room are we using for the meetings, or like who's got access to the website, all of that sort of stuff had to get out of his, you know, like those kind of things that you just collect naturally when you're starting something. We had to like explicitly get all of that out into other places. And that was a really great, I mean, again, it was kind of bumpy and clumsy and inefficient, and people got hurt along the way too. But it was a model that I would really love to emulate.
Yeah.
Not to say that you should just leave. Just don't leave. Like, give
6 months, people.
Make sure that someone's holding the baby. Just don't run away.
Were you gonna say something?
Nothing. No, never mind.
Okay.
Shall we talk a little bit about
Sure.
about the public event?
Yeah.
I have a question though.
Sure.
What happens if the July gathering can't happen?
Good question.
That's a good question.
Yeah, we were gonna ask you that.
I have ideas, but you tell me.
We don't exactly know. Like off the top of my head, I would like to really just dive into practices of microsolidarity and of crewing, and I don't want to have to wait for us to be able to meet in person to do so. So an obstacle towards that so far was that, okay, we want to have kind of our final for now group together. So one that's going to be with us consistent from now until November. So now that after this Sunday, we'll have that, then I feel really comfortable in just continuing to create peer coaching sessions and peer support moments. So yeah, I feel like we can continue just having moments via Zoom.
Yeah, I guess, I don't know, a possibility would be, because we'll be kind of a small group of 15 to 20 people. And so a possibility would be to just like meet once, twice a month, probably once, and give this session a topic that is interesting to us. So for example, this month we'll already have we are already organizing a session on money talk. So how do we relate to money, like things around this. And so maybe to continue doing one session of these, and maybe also in relation to this participatory culture, give it back to the other 18 members, saying, hey, who's down to take care of our common session for next month? And then wait kind of in these terms in which there's still some kind of like enthusiasm, inspiration, something that we're getting out of this group, and then wait until the exact moment comes to meet in person and to crew. There could also be the possibility of crewing online, trying to crew online. We haven't explored that too much. It feels definitely possible. Also, probably definitely not necessarily ideal, because there's also just these, especially because most of us, if out of 20 that said 16 people are in the same town, we literally live like 5 minutes cycling from each other. That can help in making it online for sure. It's something that we're also brainstorming. in your calls in the past months? How have been people reacting to this crewing online in your experience?
I've only done crewing online. I've
Mm.
never done in-person crewing because we live remote. We've been traveling around the world. We live in a village in Italy, and like my main community is Inspiral. And in Inspiral, a lot of people are all over the show, but a lot of them are also in New Zealand. So we've only done it online. A majority of the pods in Inspiral are all digital. They're all remote. And we have a lot of different formats for those crews. We call them pods in Inspiral. So we have a lot of different formats and things that people can do. I guess that the good thing of living really close by is that even if you start online because you can't meet, I don't know how strong the restrictions are over there. Here you can meet. So you could start digitally and then you can move into, great, we live really close together. You know, you can even start making plans of what are the things that you can do when all this is over.
Yeah, I definitely would lean towards let's start crewing. Not only I don't think we should only be having once or twice a month like big group sessions, but I would really like to be having once a month crewing sessions for all the different crews. And the like one little jump that I am wondering about is it seems intuitive to have an in-person gathering and really go into each other and meet and then come out of that naturally in groups, but like how to do that from the basis of like a 20-person Zoom call. And also like, because there are some people that know more of the group than others. So also how to like give the rest of the group enough insight and understanding of this kind of more new person, so that they will feel kind of committed to crewing with them.
Yeah,
I can give you the experience of how we do it in Inspiral, where there's around 200 people and not everyone knows everyone. I'm part of the working group in Inspiral that coordinates the pods. So I can tell you what is the process we run. So we've done a few different processes, and the one that we're doing now that it seems to be more stable and working is we do form the pods after the gatherings, wherever gatherings they are, because it seems like that's the moment where there's more energy as well, and people are even checking more on the communication platforms we have and things like that. So that really helps. Also, people get to know each other, get to meet. Maybe they were discussing a topic and they're interested to follow up on that. But the forming of the pods happens after, and it happens online. So what we do is we put up a thread. We use Lumio. I don't know if you know about Lumio, but we use Lumio to communicate. And we put up a thread that says, hey, this is the start of our new pods. And if you want to be a caller, we have different roles that people can play. So we say the person that has the initiation energy, like the seed energy, then they're the callers. And if you want to be a caller, if you're interested in call out, like people and be like, I want to talk about this particular topic, or I want a pod on this particular flavor or this intention. And there's a lot of different intentions that people have. Some people want to just have a place to check in with others and have some sense of peer support, more on more emotional level, or personal development or professional development. There's people that want to have some support on projects that they're doing. There's people that want to do an online course. So that initial energy comes from the caller, and then whomever is interested in that intention, they'll reply and be like, that sounds really great, let's meet up. And maybe they'll have a few calls and that's it for that pod, or maybe they'll just keep on going. But it's like, it's a way to get to know the others as well on a particular interest.
I guess the important part of that is there's not an expectation that everyone's going to do it. No. But it's just you making it really visible and really easy for people that want to do it. And we keep kind of drawing attention and going like, hey, look, these people are having a great time at Inspiral. They're finding lots of opportunities to collaborate and so on, because they're doing this pods thing, and it's worthy. And
it's pretty, like, what we learned is that especially for new people, it's super useful. They're the ones that jump right away because they have this energy where they want to meet the others. They're coming into this place because they want to meet others. While sometimes the long-term people that have been there for a really long time, they're the ones that are less engaged, because they already have those connections. They know that at any moment they can reach out to any other and have those conversations.
And I have two questions. Do you do only one round of pod creation? So let's say that you have this gathering, and then a week after the gathering, you open the Lumio thread to create pods. Do you only do it once, or is it ongoing?
We do it every time we have a gathering. So in New Zealand, that is where the main gatherings happen. There's one in summer and there's one in winter. So every 6 months, basically. You do it. Okay. Yeah. And then, okay. So, and whoever wants joins the pods, but it's also fine if someone decides, okay, for these 6 months, I'm on my own. I'm a solo rider. Yeah.
Perfect. Okay.
Yeah. But, you know, at the same time, anyone can at any point say, hey, I'm keen to do a pod on something. Like the idea of this is to have a pulse as a network where we encourage people to do it.
Yeah.
And at
instead of being like a random thing that happens. Yeah. When people are paying attention all at the same time in a particular place, and they know that this is the time where a lot of people are going to be either wanting to join a pod or wanting to call out one.
At the Community Weavers Guild, which is this other congregation I'm in, we've done it the same way. We had a gathering, and during the gathering we put people, we call them home groups. So you're connecting with like 3 or 4 people that you'll meet with repeatedly through the gathering, which is kind of like a proto crew, a proto pod in a way. You sort of get the taste of that. And then after the gathering, we initiated this thing of like, hey, we suggest you do this. It's a really nice way to stay in contact and feel connected to this bigger thing. It's optional, but strongly encouraged. I don't know what the numbers are, but I'd say it's probably 75%, 80% of people. It took a few months, you know, for things to configure and just calendars to align and all that. But most people are in it. And now we're in this debate of, as we've been around for a while, we start to formalize our structure a bit more explicit expectations of engagement and participation. There's a debate now is, should we make that a minimum requirement that you're in a pod, that you're meeting at least monthly with a small group, and that that's one way that we can count on you being plugged in and aware of what's going on, and being visible to each other, like, you know, so that you can see when someone's having trouble. All that sort of thing is really helpful when you know that someone's got a reliable point of contact. So I don't know if we're going to formalize it, but it looks like we're going in that direction. But the sequence, I think, is really important, that we started with this very autonomous, very free, it's optional, it's volunteer, choose your own adventure, and then over time we settle in and go, oh, this feels like a good rule, let's agree to this more formally.
It's interesting because I feel like, for example, what in our like I feel like the way we see it and the way that we've been perceiving it is that our welcoming meetings, these 2-3 meetings that we're gonna have, we're kind of like giving a taste, giving a flavor, talking about microsolidarity, talking about the structure. And I am expecting, and I think Josh is too, and the general expectation is that from these gatherings we come out with a crew. So our from these meetings, like we ask people to say, okay, if you want to come to the gathering, you already have to be committed to for the next 6 months to be in your crew, and then the crew as an autonomous culture that you can decide on. But that's the thing, that's the deal of our experience. Is it? I feel like it is, right? Yeah. Interesting. Okay.
I mean, I like that. That certainly suits my personality type, to have that level of clarity up front, like this is what you're in for. And it's nice and clean. It feels well designed, you know.
Yeah.
Both of these 2 contexts that we're talking about, they're kind of messy and complicated, and
and it's of course, in Spiral, this is doing pods is being introduced a year ago. So on a network that is 10 years old. So it's, you know, it's something that we're prototyping. We are also moving towards a little bit closer to what you're talking about with the guild, where we are going to do a proposal to the network to change some of our agreements. We never force anyone to do something in a spiral, right? But there's going to be like strongly encouraged.
Yeah, for sure.
Hey, this is the cool thing that we do.
Yeah.
Over here with shiny lights.
Yeah. I think it's cool to design for, let's have everyone doing, having this kind of shared experience. And also just to allow for the fact that humans are always a lot more messy than the nice designs that we do on the flowchart, that stuff will happen.
It's true, for sure. Yeah.
My question is like, what is your sense of, like, is your sense that crews are going to form at the gathering and then they're going to do their own thing and you're not going to have an involvement, or is your sense that you two are going to still like hand holding all the pods, or what is your engagement once they're crewing?
I understand your question. This is something we haven't dove too deeply into yet, like designing that interaction. I do think that I've never crewed also, so I only like, the only experience I have more than these people is that I've probably listened to more podcasts and read more articles about it from you guys mainly. So like, I think that I would offer my insights, my understandings of the possibilities of how these crews can go. And yeah, I mean, out of interest as well, and out of desire to like exchange knowledge, I would probably try to set something up where like the crews can like talk to each other more regularly and share like tips for how to do things. But I could also see myself within my crew being like hyper aware of how we're doing things and how we're making expiry dates to agreements, and like really just bring in my own culture of doing things, and allow that be kind of one case study, and maybe another crew is super loose and is just like high-fiving on the street sometimes. I don't know, but like then after the 6 months coming together and really sharing our experiences and saying, wow, we have this whole spectrum of different styles of crewing, and kind of allowing it to be that way.
Yeah.
For now. It's my vision a little bit.
I think having an online meeting point in which from time to time, also coming from the gathering, like how much do we want to interact with each other, and just maybe having an online space in which from time to time we just write, hey, like this month, like this crew just met and we talked about these. Yeah. Because we're also talking about, I don't know, if we're 20 people, 5, 6 crews, we'll see. It's not up to us.
I think the having these virtual spaces, especially assuming that the gathering is going to be delayed because we're not allowed to meet or whatever, like if you can have once a month or something like that, where there's these moments where people know that if they show up to that call, they're gonna experience something excellent, like that. It's like, even just from what I've seen from the design of the first 2 meetings, it's like, I'm pretty sure that what you're doing is really high quality facilitation, that there's a lot of forethought and design. There's people that are taking responsibility for the group experience, both on the social domain and the technical domain. And there's like a lot of care that's gone into that. And I think if you keep that standard of quality up, because this is my experience with the guild, the quality of facilitation on all the calls is so high that it's like, I don't really care what we're talking about. I like just connecting with those people because the process is going to be excellent, and I come out feeling refreshed and like energized, and I get some insights. And if you can get to that standard and hold it there, then people just keep showing up because it's just like, it feels good to go there, even without knowing specifically what the output's going to be or why. And so I do wonder, like, if there's going to be some virtual connections before the gathering, maybe that becomes a rhythm. Yeah, like in the guild, we do a monthly open space. So like, we don't know what it's going to be next month, but there's someone who's volunteered to host it, and then people will come with like, I want to have some advice on this project, or I just want to hang out and connect with some people I haven't met yet. And you can kind of invent formats like that.
Yeah.
what I have in these found super valuable was, I think, also something that you said, like at the very start when we started doing this project, I was feeling very systematic, very meticulous about like how to do things, and everything should be in order and everything should have a structure. And then you said something, you said that, like, I don't remember what in specific, but it was about like sparking love and fun and like well-being between people. And since then, that was kind of just like, it like what is going to really attract people is their sense of belonging and their sense of well-being, and like being in a Zoom call for like 1 hour and a half and still feeling fun and still feeling refreshed and smiling and in high spirits. And I think that this is the key.
Mm-hmm. Totally.
Yeah.
I think that maybe let's talk about
maybe we could talk a little bit about this moment for sharing what we've been doing, sharing a bit about Microsolidarity. So basically the thing is that on the 30th of May, like I basically have the platform to have a live online event to share about the process of this project. Mm-hmm. What I would really love is that, so right now I'm thinking that the audience would include people from the Lumio forum, people related to Inspiral, people related to this kind of network already who are interested on like, about Microsolidarity, basically connected to this. I would also then be inviting, of course, my university and trying to get into the general public as well, in the Netherlands to start, but also reaching out through different networks. What I would really like from this moment is to primarily give the public audience a felt experience of what we're going through, what we're doing, and how you can really intersect. Because like what's been so special for me about this process is diving into a style of work and a style of relating to people, which really crosses this intersection of emotional intimacy, financial and economic intimacy. And it's really feels very strongly, and also for a lot of the people that we've who have become participants, it's really this feeling of like, wow, this is actually kind of a new wave of how to socialize and a new wave of how to work, like all together. I can actually meet my friends on like the level that we would normally meet, but I also get deeper insight into what they're actually doing and what they really deeply care about doing in the world. So sharing some kind of practices with the audience, going into breakout rooms, actually doing them would be really nice. And I'm curious to know if there's like, I would also like to support the model, the concept of Microsolidarity itself, and kind of use this moment that I have and have to do and will put effort and energy into with a group of people as well, just like using that energy to also uplift Microsolidarity as a model to share with people. So I'm wondering if you guys notice already like any specific needs, or what might be most helpful for Microsolidarity itself to just spread, and also for more people to feel like they have access to using it and to integrating it into their own circles.
That's really exciting. Off the top of my head, there's a piece about inspiration, like why is this interesting? Why have you put this energy in? Why do you think it's worth telling people about? Like just being able to capture that is really useful. Mm-hmm. And there's a piece about one of my uncertainties and discomforts with Microsolidarity is that it's just, we're not really inventing much. Like we're remixing a whole body of work that already exists in other practitioners. So I think the more that you can reference it as this, if you can point, like, you know, like naming Phoebe Tickell and Samantha Slade, for instance, and saying there's this thing called going horizontal in there, really leading on that, and that's one of the pieces. And then there's like Ria back from Art of Hosting, and she's been contributing to and kind of naming some of this lineage and making it not it's not just this invention that's come from a point source, you know, like it's this whole network of ideas. The other piece is being clear about the experimental nature. Like, this is not mature, we don't know how it works, we're learning. The invitation is to join an open source research network where people are learning in public together. We don't actually know how to do it. Like, Inspiral is pretty mature and it works reasonably well, but no one knows how to do two of Inspirals. Like, we've only known how to do one of them, and this is a new discovery process. And so it's like inspiring people, but not giving their hopes up to a fake level of like, oh, you just run through these processes, and then before you know it, you're going to have the lifestyle of your dreams. Yeah, we've reinvented social life and work together. Ta-da!
Utopia! Woohoo!
Yeah. And then also, I'm really fascinated at the moment about what obscures people, what obstacles are between them and their agency. Like, what was it that was there a time before where you had kind of these vague wishes and hopes, but then something happened, and then you got the sense of like, yes, I can do this, we can do this, we can initiate something, I feel ready to start. Like, I would love to know what it is that catalyzes that switch from I'm hungry, I'm longing, or I'm lost, or I don't know, I've got a sense that something could be different, and then the switch goes and suddenly it's like, I'm going to take this action, I'm going to invite these people, I'm going to use this framework. Like, I would love to know what happened.
Yeah, I think the how to start story, it's quite important. There's a lot of people that ask, like, even in the trainings that we do, you know, for decentralized organizing, people that are really interested, but how do I find the other people that are going to be perfect to join this ideal utopia that I have? So just sharing the story of how you started, like, how did you find even the third person or the fourth person?
And then I'm just interested in what's the actual process design for the session? How long have you got?
I would like to keep it below an hour and a half.
Yeah.
Shooting at 1 hour, I think.
And our idea is a little bit, and this is the juicy part for you also that I mentioned at the start. So we were thinking about making some videos. So kind of like a teaser, like something about the Microsolidarity as the framework and structure that we're using. So more or less talking about crews and congregations and how more or less they work, of course, according to each one's culture. And then to also make another video, or maybe in the same video, to have people talking about their experiences. So like, how do they see a certain thing about this whole process through a certain lens? What was the thing that sparkled you about Microsolidarity? What was the thing that maybe made you feel like, I don't know if I want to commit to it so much? Or actually, just like different questions, making kind of this small video. And then like the discussion place of the online space we haven't fixed. We haven't thought, like, we haven't concretized the structure too much. It's super poor English, sure.
You mean like a moment within the event where we have some kind of discussion? Yeah,
that the discussion we haven't really, like, we don't know too well how it's gonna go yet.
I have a few questions. One is, when you're talking about making these videos, is the idea to record these videos and send them in advance to participants, or to record those videos during the session?
The idea until now was to record this video and actually show it during the event. So keeping it somewhat short as well, maybe 10 minutes, and share it during the event. Could also be that we share it beforehand. And yeah, like, a main benefit of this video is also for us just having super nice documentation of people's experiences doing this ethnographic research, and for the audience as well, to have a bit more just context and understanding of how the people that are participating are experiencing it.
That's cool.
So yeah, we also in this moment wanted to just invite both of you to participate in some way, either from the level of coming and watching, being an audience, to being involved in a discussion live, to maybe asking questions, or perhaps sharing kind of your perspective on why Microsolidarity why did you actually spend so much research and time into writing this article and into really sharing this. So there's a few different levels of participation that I would be really interested in exploring with you both. And at this point, I feel like it's an open invitation, and after this call, you can of course just let it simmer and feel it out. But if we have time now, I'd love to.
May 30th?
Yeah, May 30th.
What time?
So either 10:30 to 12 or 6 p.m. until 7:30. We haven't decided on a time yet, but I'd like to make those options.
Yeah, well, doing it in the evening then opens up. People in the States can participate. There's a lot, for some reason, there's a lot of people in the US at the moment that are tuning in with Microsolidarity and paying attention. So
nice one. Yeah.
The new way
Good
of
point.
Socializing.
Yes, and work.
And we're doing a practice week.
Yeah.
Mid-May.
Yeah, it's on the 11th to 15th.
Yeah, 11th to the 15th. So we can also, if you have like an invite about this, we can share it with the people that participate in the event and things
We're
like that.
counting on participating too.
Oh,
Cool.
great.
Yeah.
Great. That's good. You'll get to experience us learning.
Yeah. Nice.
I can say I'm happy to participate in some way, and we've been experimenting with different formats for this kind of thing where it's a bit more public. Like, obviously it's not the general public, it's not just some random people, but people that you don't know, but you probably expect to have some kind of shared interests or friends of friends in common and things like that. And the basic rule of thumb we're using is, well, first you've got to signal to people before they arrive that it's going to have a participatory component, because there's a real obstacle people have to, don't put me in a small group with strangers and I have to connect with them. You know, so signaling that well up ahead. We did one the other day, we called it a participatory talk, and we made it clear, there's some people that are going to open the floor and they're going to say some stuff, and then you're going to be in a group and you're going to talk about what you think about it, and then we're going to come back. And that rule of thumb of I call it the rule of thirds. If you've got an hour, then do 20 minutes of setting context and inspiration, and here's the talk, and we're going to roll the videos, just a little bit of here's what we're here for, and then 20 minutes in breakout groups. With this thing, it might be probably, if you have less than 4 people in a group, it might be a little bit too exposing for strangers. But give them a couple of questions, some prompts, go spend 20 minutes in a small group. And then the last 20 minutes is just you can be hearing back from people. Sometimes we'll do things like, if you've got questions, put them in the chat, and then maybe there's a panel that's answering questions, or you're just hearing reflections from what happened in the small groups. And that flow tends to, it's like the first third orients people and situates them and gives them something to talk about. Second third, they experience some connection, and they're inquiring into their own experience and listening to someone else and wow, it's so great to learn from you. And then that last third is more about feeling connected to the whole, and it's oh wow, we really went something, when you get to hear a little bit about what popped in all the small groups, it feels like we achieved something as a whole group that wasn't just someone was talking and everyone else was listening.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Awesome.
It's super interesting to hear these. Yeah, because I also really have this feeling, as you said, that when you say, okay, Microsolidarity isn't actually such a new thing, it's just a collection of different cultures. And I have been in such different cultures, and it's looking at Microsolidarity and saying, yeah, this is just Richard was able to put this kind of implicit culture into writing, and this is so cool. And for example, this 20-minute rule of what you've been mentioning, it's also somehow been what implicitly Josh and I have been doing in our online Zooms with all these people. We started with hey, this is what we are here to do. Like, what about, let's brainstorm about this question. Let's like go to these small rooms because people can talk with each other. They can actually like have fun and get to know others. And then we come back to the big room and we share what we learn, and people have the space to just say something, and then, okay, bye.
And it works. It feels good. You're like,
It works. It feels good.
So it's been 1 hour. It's 6 o'clock. Wanted to offer you guys the chance to ask or say anything if there's anything burning that you'd like to keep talking about. Otherwise, I think we could check out.
Yeah. This is not.
No. I'm just so thrilled with the documentation. I can't say it enough. It's exceptional. It makes me so happy. Like, I think what's happening is I always wanted Inspiral to be like this, where a ton of the production was happening in a way where it was all that extra energy is going into publishing stuff that's useful for others. And we just never had that, you know, like people had it was a kind of a different culture and different priorities and stuff, but it's so exceptional that you can document that stuff. And I'm really sure that it's super valuable for a lot of other people. Like to have, this is the invitation that we sent people to come to the meeting, and this is what happened in the meeting. Like all of that detail, I think, is super helpful for everyone else that is starting, you know, they might be 6 months behind you and thinking like, oh, I'd love to start something. It's just ultra valuable and better than what I could do. So I'm so excited about that. I think that's not a question or anything. It's just like, keep going. It's a subtle pressure to don't drop that ball.
Cool, thanks.
Yeah, it's exciting to get to know you all and hear what you're doing. And yeah, I'm just looking forward to hearing the next updates and see how what is that you're experimenting with and what we can learn as well from that, to pass it on to the others.
Cool. So I guess we're checking out. I can go next. So first of all, I have to say that I'm actually really excited and looking forward for these 90-minute calls in May. I also took a look at the program, and it's just it looks exciting. I'm just looking forward to also just be with a network of strangers that are working in the same thing and hear all these different perspectives. Thank you so much for this call. It gave us a lot of clarity, or at least to me. Sorry, I don't know. We'll see if it brought clarity to Josh later. Especially like in regards to these suggestions of Unati for pod making, pod crewing online, definitely helps also that, okay, actually we've been doing this online since ever, so don't worry. Yeah, and generally like I live with an open heart. Thank you. And I also just wanted to say, like, Richard, when I wrote it here, and now I'm wondering whether I should share it or not, because as we opened this meeting, I felt that like we have been quite lucky here. We're in the Netherlands and there's not much social restrictions. There's kind of these advisory regulations, but we are able to go outside. Every day I wake up and go for a bike ride. I've been meditating, like I leave home at 7 to meditate and see the sunset. So I don't see many people, but I'm not doing extremely bad. But I think it can be probably quite struggling if you're deprived of some of these things. And just I've been struggling a little bit sometimes with my mind, and to me sometimes what really helps is to think that my original state is one of rest. Like the original place of my mind is one of rest, and that everything that comes, it's kind of me and the people and the places and everything around me, that like to this box and to this heart that is usually naturally empty and light, it just keeps on adding. So I hope that you can find this rest from time to time. Don't get too lost in there. Thank you.
Thank you. That's really sweet.
Yeah, I feel like we're becoming a team. Actually, like the first call with Rich felt a bit more like a somewhat putting him in a perspective of like an idolized character whose research we read for a while and then like trying to take into our own project. And in going through the process of the past months, I'm now coming to this end of this call and really feeling like, oh cool, this is kind of something we can meet on a common level about and really work with each other on and towards. And that's feeling really nourishing to me. Yeah, also like B said, going through this crewing stuff was super settling as well, because Corona changes the rules of the whole game, and still having some outlook as to how we can carry on and carry through with this project. Like I feel like I have a more solid grasp on how to do that coming out of this call. So that's super valuable. And yeah, really looking forward to keeping in touch and follow up with you both about the 30th when we have some more information and we can keep a little thread going, maybe to just explore ideas on how you participate and how you're feeling about all of that.
Yeah, that'd be great.
Yay.
Thank
nice.
you.
Great.
Enjoy your evening.
Thank you. You too.
Fun.
Lovely to see you both.
Bye-bye.
Ciao.
Bye-bye.
Ciao.
Ciao.